Be seated. Thank you. Before proceeding the formal business of the meeting, I would ask Imam Ijaz to lead us in prayer.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh, and good evening to all of you. Inshallah al-Aziz, firstly I will recite the chapter number 103 of the Holy Quran, and I will then follow this with an English translation, inshallah. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. والعصر إن الإنسان لفي خسر إلا الذين آمنوا وعملوا الصالحات وتواصوا بالحق إلا الذين آمنوا وعملوا الصالحات وتواصوا بالحق وتواصوا بالحق وتواصوا بالصبر. آمنت بالله صدق الله العظيم. Translation of the verses I have recited or follow. I seek refuge with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala from the accursed Satan. In the name of Allah, the most merciful, the most compassionate. By oath of this era of yours, O dear Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa alihi wa sallam, peace be upon you. In man is surely in a loss, except those who accepted faith and perform good deeds and urge one another to the truth and urge one another to have patience. Now I will make a very short supplication. O Allah, give all of us the ability to advise each other for good. O Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, guide us on straight path. O Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, grant us a mind free of worry, a heart free of sadness, and a body free of sickness. O Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, give all of us the ability to work together for a better future of local community and our beautiful town of Luton. O Allah, unite all of us with love, peace, and harmony. Amen. Thank you very much. Assalamu alaikum.
Thank you, Officer. Good evening and welcome to the annual meeting of the Council. Before we begin, would members please silence their mobile phone, use the microphones when speaking, and sit in their allocated seats. Stand up when proposing and seconding the item. If there is an emergency, turn left out of the chamber, follow the green emergency exit sign to the Man Town Hall entrance and assemble in St. George's Square. Members of the public are entitled to take photograph, film, audio recorded, and report on all public meeting according with the Openness of Local Government Bodies Regulation 2014. People may not, however, act in any way considered to be disruptive or may be asked to leave. and this meeting will be live streamed to the public. Members are reminded that the registration of interest is a statutory requirement, and that failure to do so within a specified period of time which has now expired is a criminal offence, with the potential on conviction of a fine or disqualification. It is breach of the Council's Code of Conduct which affects the reputation of not only the individual member but the Council as a whole. So those members who have yet not completed the register of interest are asked to do so this evening and return them to the monitoring officer at the end of the meeting. Forms have been provided in places of members concerned. Members, please note that the voting will be by exception. Rather than calling out each member to name to record their vote, I will ask members to indicate if they wish to vote against the motion. If no members vote against, I will declare the item carried. The outcome will not be recorded in the minute unless 6 members of the Council indicate that they wish for this to happen according with the Standing Order 20.2. The first item of the business is to elect the mayor. I call upon Hazel Simon.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Good evening, members. It gives me great pleasure to stand up this evening and nominate Councillor Samira Salim to be our mayor for the forthcoming municipal year. Samira has been with the council since 2015. She's already been deputy mayor and is currently chair of our standards board. She will make a fantastic ambassador for the town, and I'm really proud to be nominating her this evening. I'll keep all the other comments to make, Mr. Mayor, until the investiture evening, which is our normal process. So without those few words, I will move the mayor this evening.
Thank you, Councillor Simmons. I call upon Councillor Lovell to second the nomination.
I second the motion. Thank you. The nomination, sorry.
Are there any other speakers to the nomination? Are there any other nomination? As there are no other nomination, I declare that Councillor Samira Salim is elected Mayor of Borough of Luton. I invite Councillor Samira Salim to make a declaration of acceptance of office. A special meeting of the Council will be held on 14th of June, 6 p.m. in Council Chamber at the Town Hall to invest the newly elected Mayor.
Madam Mayor-elect, I have the honour to ask you to sign a formal declaration of acceptance of your office.
Thank you. On behalf of this borough, you are now formally invested with the chain and the badge of Mayor of Office.
Thank you very much. The next item is the appointment of Deputy Mayor. I call upon Councillor Raja Ahmed.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I would like to propose Asif Masood, Labour Councillor for Icknield Ward, as a Deputy Mayor of the Luton Borough Council. As a colleague, I have known Asif to be hardworking, courteous, and passionate about tackling social injustice, inequality, and helping the most vulnerable people in the society. I'll leave my other comments for the next investiture meeting. Thank you.
Thank you. I now call upon Councillor Yasmin Wahid to second the nomination.
Madam Mayor, I'll second the nomination.
Thank you. Are there any other speakers to the nomination? Councillor Franks?
Yes, Madam Mayor. Only 18 months ago, Councillor Asif Masood was found guilty by the Standards Committee of bringing the council into disrepute and bringing his office into disrepute by attending a garden party with other friends, neighbours or whatever, at a time when such events were banned and Luton residents were falling ill through COVID by the dozen at a time. It could actually be quite interesting for someone to explain why all of a sudden he's squeaky clean and can now be Deputy Mayor of the town. And whilst we're on the subject, I haven't heard a single squeak at all from the Labour leadership about one of their members pleading guilty last week to fraud against the council. Not a word. Is she still a Labour councillor? Why is Asif Masood still a Labour councillor? I'm going to ask my Liberal Democrat colleagues to vote against this, so I give notice now that we will be voting, and we will obviously need a roll call. Thank you.
So are there any other speakers to the nomination? Tom? Councillor Shaw?
Can't call you Mr. Mayor anymore, can I? Yes, Madam Mayor. Of all the occasions the Liberals could raise this, they wait till the maximum publicity time they can get at the AGM of the council. But let's go over the facts. Not everyone's innocent in this council chamber. I'll ask you a direct question, seeing you mentioned two of ours. You've got someone in your group who was convicted of parking in a disabled parking space. What paid the fine? Why are they still members of the Liberal Party? What you fire over here will come back, David, you should know that. But let's have a look at the actual case. The case is that someone attended a party with only 7 people. They got caught. They put their hands up to it. They apologised for it. The mayor resigned. There was no position for the proposed deputy mayor to stand for. It went to the Standards Board July 20. They broke the restriction. July 2020, the council has fully apologised for it. Can we have an apology for the member of your group dishonestly used a disabled badge, please? Can we have that apology? Because our people apologised for it. They said sorry, but you're not interested in any of that. You just want to play cheap political games. And I am totally ashamed of what I considered a decent opposition that you sunk as low as you possibly have sunk tonight. It's totally unbelievable that you'll do it. When you'll have another chance, you could have had chances at executive, you could have asked questions there, you could have asked questions at a lot of boards, but no, all you're looking for is cheap publicity, and you managed to get that tonight by asking the question. But on top of that, you're a little bit wrong. If he's got his publicity, so he couldn't care less what anyone's saying anymore. It's David Frank's Liberals games all over the place. But what you forgot is the Standards Board had no power to impose sanctions on them. What the Standards Board says is could they give a voluntary contributions to charity, which they all did. Now, are you saying that the Standards Board was wrong, the police was wrong by not calling it in, everyone was wrong apart from Davy Franks and the Liberal group, what's got members of his own group, what play games, but he accuses our group of doing stuff. And for the member what's been found guilty, it's technical. Get on your feet and say that and apologise to her. It's a technical guilty. She's put her hands up. Your people won't put their hands up. She put her hands up. The deputy mayor, the new deputy mayor, put his hands up. You do the same for your members, because you just want to play stupid political games at an AGM of the council. You should be totally ashamed of yourself. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Councillor Hussain.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I think I can now speak now without having to worry about being sitting in that chair. Can I just say I agree wholeheartedly with Tom, because one of the things that, people have a very quick to raise fingers at other people. But please look at yourself, and those of you that have been criminally convicted have really first to apologize to this council, because that is fraud too, and fraud found by the council, not by this council, by the court. And I think that should have been an example, and nobody, not a single one of you, said a word. So silence was golden, wasn't it? But now is your opportunity to do that. You were sat on the Standards Committee. You could have put sanctions. You could have asked it to go to the council. You didn't. And one of you, who now is with part of your group, was in that Standards Committee, who proposed that they make a voluntary contribution to the charity of their own. And they did that. Do you not believe that that is really, there was no criminal, police did not take any action. They didn't even investigate. So I think in light of that, one needs to look at your own colleagues before you started pointing fingers at others. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Chapman.
Councillor Shaw, you've really gone too far tonight. You have gone absolutely too far. I've been on this council 40 years. Never once have I voted against a mayor or a deputy mayor. So why are we voting for this evening? Firstly, I'd like to make councillors aware we did not know until we were notified this afternoon who would be the candidate for deputy mayor. Okay? So all this talk about what we should have done before, we did not know that would be the case. I believe that to represent people on this council in Luton is one of the highest honours a Lutonian or somebody that comes to live in Luton can have. And I really cannot believe that such moral values as shame are not now part of this council. Many people in Luton during the COVID epidemic went through hell. They experienced things they'd never experienced before. And just to make a case that's thrown at one of our councillor who was fined for parking in disabled space, as many councillors are aware, did so because his wife was about to miss a chemotherapy session. That's why it happened. A choice. Take a fine or miss the chemotherapy. That was the reason. So to throw that at us is an absolute disgrace. But personally, this is why I so object to this happening. We are now putting a councillor in the position of deputy mayor who, since they were convicted of putting this council into disrepute, has not put themselves in front of the electorate, so the electorate can decide. And to give people an idea of what people experienced, my parents died during the COVID period in the same week. My mother died in hospital with COVID and we were unable to visit. It wasn't a social event, we couldn't go. At their funeral, after 94 years, They were buried together and there were 20 people allowed at that funeral, masked and separated. And you say, I am playing political games. It's an utter disgrace. And I am furious that you should say that, Tom. It's a principle that if somebody brings this council into disrepute, if they're going to take a senior position in this council, at least they should put themselves before the electorate before we give that privilege. I'm not playing political games. It's my profoundly held view. It is wrong. And I don't expect to be criticised for having that view.
Are there any more speakers? Are there any other nominations?
Madam Mayor, I hope members won't mind if I don't stand up for the recorded vote for obvious reasons. Members will go through a recorded vote, and for is for the nomination and against is against the nomination. Councillor Abid.
For.
Councillor Driss.
For.
Councillor Ahmed.
For.
Councillor Akbar. Councillor Ali. Ali. Absent. Councillor Ali.
For.
Councillor Begum.
For.
Councillor Bridgen.
Against.
Councillor Campbell.
Absent.
Councillor D. Chapman.
Against.
Councillor P. Chapman. Against. Councillor Chowdhury.
For.
Councillor Donnellan.
For.
Councillor Franks.
Against.
Councillor A. Hussain.
Abstain.
Councillor J. I. Hussain.
For.
Councillor J. Hussain.
For.
Councillor M. Hussain. Councillor S. Hussain.
For.
Councillor Javid.
For.
Councillor Keynes.
Abstain.
Councillor Cursed.
For.
Councillor Lovell. Councillor Malcolm.
For.
Councillor K. Malik. Councillor T. Malik.
For.
Councillor Masood. Councillor Mead.
Against.
Councillor Moles.
Against.
Councillor Moore.
Against.
Councillor Pedersen.
Against.
Councillor Petts.
Against.
Councillor Roche. For. Councillor S. Salim.
For.
Councillor Shaw. Councillor Simmons.
For.
Councillor Skeppelhorn.
Against.
Councillor Taylor.
For.
Councillor Underwood.
Against.
Councillor Wahid.
For.
Councillor Wynne.
Against.
Councillor Young.
The motion is carried. I declare that Councillor Asif Masood is elected Deputy Mayor. I invite Councillor Asif Masood to sign the Declaration of Acceptance of Office.
Mr. Deputy Mayor-elect, I have the honour to ask you to sign the formal Declaration of Acceptance of your office.
Right. Are there any apologies for absence from this meeting?
Madam Mayor, I have got apologies from Councillors Khan, Nichols and T. Salim.
Okay. The next item is to receive the minutes of the council meeting held on the 22nd of March 2022 as set out in pages 1 to 7. Does the council approve the minutes and agree to me signing them as a correct record?
Yes, agreed.
Okay, I now invite Councillor Simmons to deal with agenda item 7. I would remind members that for this vote to pass, no single member must vote against the motion.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I move that alternative arrangements to those prescribed by sections 15 and 16 of the Housing and Local Government Act 1989 be adopted by the Council in relation to the bodies shown at item 7 on the Council's agenda.
Is the motion seconded? Are there any questions? Are there any amendments? Does any member wish to speak to the motion? The motion is before the Council. Does any member vote against? The motion is carried. I now call upon Councillor Simmons to move agenda item 8.
I move that under section 15 of the Local Government and Housing Act 1989, the Council determine that the allocation to the different political groups on the various committees be as set out in the table on page 11.
Is the motion seconded? Are there any amendments? Does anyone wish to speak to the motion? The motion is before the Council. Does any member vote against? The motion is carried. I call upon Councillor Simmons to move agenda item 9.
In moving the motion, I would advise that as the Council has resolved to disapply the political balance on scrutiny committees, it is proposed to include Councillor Abbas Hussein's name in the membership of the Overview and Scrutiny Board. In addition, for the Joint Health Overview and Scrutiny Committee, Councillor Pedeston should read Councillor Underwood. So that's corrected. With those revisions, I move that the membership of the committees of the Council, pools and panels, be as set out on pages 12 to 20.
Is the motion seconded? Are there any amendments to the motion? Are there any speakers to the motion? Councillor Franks?
Yes, thank you, Madam Mayor. I'm just a little confused. I was led to believe that Councillor Simmons was going to move that Abbas Hussein be appointed to the Overview and Scrutiny Committee, not Overview and Scrutiny Board.
My apologies, David. I said the wrong word.
Oh, thank you for that. I mean, clearly, as a non-executive member, he's entitled to be on Overview and Scrutiny Committee. Yeah. Thank you.
Right, thank you. Are there any amendments? Are there any speakers to the motion? So the motion is before the Council. Does any member vote against? The motion is carried. I call upon Councillor Simmons to move agenda item 10.
I move that the membership and procedure for the appointments panel and redeployment panel be as set out on pages 21 to 22.
Is the motion seconded? Are there any amendments? Are there any speakers to the motion? The motion is before the Council. Does any member vote against? The motion is carried. I call upon Councillor Simmons to move agenda item 11.
I move that the membership and procedure for the Housing Appeals and Review panel be as set out on pages 23 to 24.
Is the motion seconded?
Seconded, Mr. Mayor.
Mr. Mayor.
Are there any amendments? Are there any speakers to the motion? The motion is before the Council. Does any member vote against? The motion is carried. I call upon Councillor Simmons to move agenda item 12.
I move that the membership and procedure for the Investigation and Disciplinary Committee and the Disciplinary Appeals Committee be as set out on pages 25 to 26.
Is the motion seconded? Are there any amendments? Are there any speakers to the motion? The motion is before the Council. Does any member vote against? The motion is carried. I call upon Councillor Simmons to move agenda item 13.
I move that the membership of other boards, strategic programme boards, be as set out on the schedule circulated separately, and that the executive bodies so indicated be commended to the executive for approval.
Is the motion seconded? Are there any amendments? Are there any speakers to the motion? The motion is before the Council. Does any member vote against? The motion is carried. I call upon Councillor Simmons to move agenda item 14.
I move the recommendations set out at paragraph 2 on page 27.
Is the motion seconded? Are there any amendments? Are there any speakers to the motion? Councillor Skeppel-Warne.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I have a question and then I would like to speak to it. Will the Council allow LBC employees who are not domiciled within the borough to use the Town Hall's postcode and address if they wish to fill out a petition form?
I'm going to look for some advice for the answer there. What would our normal procedure, and Adam?
Someone's going to use the Town Hall, an employee would use the Town Hall
As their address.
The employees would use the Town Hall if they wanted to.
Okay. So they could use the Town Hall as their work address.
That's supplementary, Madam. So has that been circulated to employees that they will be able to do that?
I'll make sure it is.
Thank you. I wish to speak to this. I think we're still doing a disservice to a large number of people who work in this town, who do not live in the town, that cannot use their work or education address to sign a petition against a specific issue. I think we still need to work to look at what possible routes we have to accommodate those people. You know, we have a large number of people.
Sorry, can I stop you? You're addressing the wrong item.
I thought item 14 was the... it's health and wellbeing.
It's okay. You want to bring those in when we get to the next part? Yeah? Sorry, that's fine. So the motion is before the Council. Does any member vote against? The motion is carried. I now invite Councillor Simmons to deal with agenda item 15.
I nominate Councillors Burnett, Chowdhury, Franks and Waheed for appointment as the Council's representatives on the Bedfordshire Fire and Rescue Authority, with Councillor Waheed as the Council's spokesperson.
Is the motion seconded? Are there any other nominations? Councillors Burnett, Chowdhury, Franks and Waheed are appointed as the Council's representatives on the Bedfordshire Fire and Rescue Authority, with Councillor Waheed as the Council's spokesperson. I call upon Councillor Simmons to move agenda item 16.
In moving the recommendation, please note one further change, that Audit and Governance Committee has been moved from the 26th of July 22 to the 21st of July to avoid a clash. Subject to that change, I move the recommendation set out in paragraph 2 on page 39.
Is the motion seconded?
Seconded, Madam Mayor, and I give my apologies. The 17th of March that day, to that Paddy's Day, I'll be missing the group meeting.
Right, are there any amendments? Are there any speakers to the motion? Councillor Franks?
Yeah, thank you, Madam Mayor. Just a simple request that one of Debbie's team, the Democratic Services people, would bang out an email to everyone with the new amendment. That would be helpful.
Yep, that can be done. Okay, so the motion is before the council. Does any member vote against? The motion is carried. I call upon Councillor Simmons to move agenda item 17.
I move the recommendation at paragraph 2 on page 46.
Is the motion seconded?
Seconded, Madam Mayor.
Are there any amendments? Are there any speakers to the motion? The motion is before the council. Does any member vote against? The motion is carried. I call upon Councillor Simmons to move agenda item 18.
I move that those listed on page 47 be appointed to serve on the independent panel on members' allowances.
Is the motion seconded?
Seconded, Madam Mayor.
Are there any amendments? Are there any speakers to the motion? The motion is before the council. Does any member vote against? The motion is carried. I invite Councillor Simmons to deal with agenda item 19.
With effect from the 17th of May, in addition to myself, I have appointed the following members to be members of the Executive. Councillors Begum, Golding, Javed Hussain, Aslam Khan, Tamina Salim, Lovell, Kachita Malik, Roche and Shaw. The allocation, the allocation of executive portfolios has been circulated around the chamber for information.
I call upon Councillor Simmons to move agenda item 20.1.
I move the recommendation set out on paragraph 2 on page 48.
Is the motion seconded? Are there any amendments? Are there any speakers to the motion? Councillor Skepperthorne? Yeah.
I do apologise, I misread my agenda. I took quite a bit, and I thank the leader for the answers to my two questions. I really do think that the number of people that we have who work in this town who will be affected by any kind of changes need to be able to mark their objections, and if they can't use their work or educational address, we must find some way of allowing them to make that objection clear. It's with the 2040 agenda, we want more and more people to come into the town, to work in the town. The more people we get in the town, the more they're going to be affected. And I think we should still be looking to find some sort of accommodation to that end. And I reluctantly ask my Liberal Democrat friends to vote against this, simply to recognise that I don't think this is complete yet.
It's disappointing that the member opposite didn't attend the Petitions and Recommendations Committee, where there was a lengthy discussion about this, and the opportunity was given for people to come with ideas about how we might resolve the issue of the petitions. It's not an easy resolution to find, to deal with the requests that you've made. We'll certainly continue to look at it, but we had to move forward with a petition a strategy of some sort, and the opportunity was given for you to come there before we signed off the final document, and people did not attend that meeting. So we took it that you were satisfied with the petition form. So I would ask members to agree.
Just a point of clarification on that. Unfortunately, I didn't finish work until 7 o'clock that night, so I couldn't get there. But I take your point that it was available at that point, and I would have made those points at that meeting.
Okay, so the motion is before the council. Does any member vote against?
Yes.
Can I see a show of hands, please?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. We'll go to a recorded vote. Councillor Abid?
For.
Councillor Idris?
For.
Councillor Akbali? For. Councillor Ahmed?
For.
Councillor Akbar?
For.
Councillor U. Ali?
For.
Councillor A. Ali?
Against.
Councillor Begum?
For.
Councillor Breaton?
Against.
Councillor Burnett? Councillor Campbell? Councillor D. Chapman?
Against.
Councillor P. Chapman? Councillor Chowdhury? Councillor Donnellan? Councillor Franks?
Against.
Councillor A. Hussain? Councillor J. I. Hussain?
For.
Councillor J. Hussain?
For.
Councillor M. Hussain?
For.
Councillor S. Hussain? Councillor Javid?
For.
Councillor Keynes?
Against.
Councillor Cursed?
For.
Councillor Lovell? Councillor Malcolm?
For.
Councillor K. Malik?
For.
Councillor T. Malik?
For.
Councillor Masood? Councillor Mead?
Against.
Councillor Moles?
Against.
Councillor Moore? Councillor Pedersen?
Against.
Councillor Petts?
Against.
Councillor Roche?
For.
Councillor S. Salim?
For.
Councillor Shaw? Councillor Simmons?
For.
Councillor Skeppelhorn?
Against.
Councillor Taylor?
For.
Councillor Underwood?
Against.
Councillor Waheed?
For.
Councillor Wynne?
Against.
Councillor Young?
The motion is carried. I call upon Councillor Simmons to move agenda item 21.1.
I move the recommendations set out on paragraph 2 on page 56.
Is the motion seconded? Are there any amendments? Are there any speakers to the motion? The motion is before the council. Does any member vote against? The motion is carried. That concludes the business for the annual meeting of the council, and I declare this meeting now closed. The meeting of the executive and all committees of the council will take place immediately. So can I please ask all members to remain seated? I invite the executive leader to deal with the agenda for the executive.
I have appointed Councillor Aslam Khan as Deputy Executive Leader, and I have circulated the content of executive portfolios around the council chamber. I move that the names set out on the schedule circulated around the meeting room for appointments to outside organisations, outside corporate bodies and charities be approved. The names set out on the schedule circulated separately for appointment to other bodies be approved. The dates and times of meetings set out at Agenda 10.1 be approved, and in relation to Agenda Item 11, the relevant portfolio holder and myself be appointed as the members of the executive to be consulted before officers take urgent action.
Is the motion seconded? Are there any speakers to the motion? Are there any amendments? Members of the executive only, do you agree? Agree. The motion is carried. I will now deal with the Administration and Regulation Committee. Would a member of that committee please nominate a chair?
I nominate Waheed Akbar.
Is the motion seconded?
Seconded, Madam Mayor.
Are there any other nominations? Members of Administration and Regulation Committee only, do you agree? Councillor Akbar, you are elected Chair of Administration and Regulation Committee. Please nominate a Vice Chair.
I nominate Councillor Hannah Idris as my Vice Chair.
Is the proposal seconded?
Seconded, Madam Mayor.
Are there any nominations? Members of Administration and Regulation Committee only, do you agree? Councillor Adris is elected Vice Chair. Would Councillor Akbar please deal with the remaining item?
Further to agenda item 7, I nominate myself and the Vice Chair as the member of the committee to be consulted before officers take urgent action.
Is the proposal seconded?
Seconded, Madam Mayor.
Members of Administration and Regulation Committee only, do you agree? The motion is carried. I will now deal with the Audit and Governance Committee. Will a member of that committee please nominate a chair?
I nominate Councillor Ahmed.
Is the motion seconded?
Seconded, Madam Mayor.
Are there any other nominations? Members of Audit and Governance Committee only, do you agree?
Agree.
Councillor Ahmed, you are elected Chair of Audit and Governance Committee. Please nominate a Vice Chair.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I nominate Councillor Barnett as my Vice Chair.
Is the proposal seconded?
Seconded, Madam Mayor.
Are there any other nominations? Members of Audit and Governance Committee only, do you agree?
Agreed.
Councillor Burnett is elected Vice Chair. Would Councillor Ahmed please deal with the remaining item?
Further to agenda item 7, I nominate myself and Vice Chair as the members of the committee to be consulted before officers take urgent action.
Is the proposal seconded? Members of Audit and Governance Committee only, do you agree? The motion is carried. I will now deal with the Constitution Committee. Will a member of that committee please nominate a chair?
I nominate Councillor Jawaria Hussain.
Is the motion seconded?
Seconded, Madam Mayor.
Are there any other nominations? Members of Constitution Committee only, do you agree? Okay. Councillor Jawaria Hussain, you are elected Chair of Constitution Committee. Please nominate a Vice Chair.
I nominate Councillor Umi Ali as my Vice Chair.
Is the proposal seconded? Are there any other nominations? Members of Constitution Committee only, do you agree?
Agreed.
Councillor Umi Ali is elected Vice Chair. Would Councillor Jawaria Hussain please deal with the remaining item?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Further to agenda item 6, I nominate myself and the Vice Chair as the members of the committee to be consulted by officers to take urgent action. Thank you.
Is the proposal seconded?
Seconded.
Members of Constitution Committee only, do you agree? The motion is carried. I will now deal with the Development Management Committee. Would a member of that committee please nominate a chair?
I nominate Councillor Taylor.
Is the motion seconded?
Mayor.
Are there any other nominations? Members of Development Management Committee only, do you agree?
Agree.
Councillor Taylor, you are elected Chair of Development Management Committee. Please nominate a Vice Chair.
Madam Mayor, I nominate Councillor Agley as my Vice Chair.
Is the proposal seconded?
Seconded, Madam Mayor.
Are there any other nominations? Members of Development Management Committee only, do you agree?
Agree.
Councillor Agleby is elected Vice Chair. Would Councillor Taylor please deal with the remaining item?
Madam Mayor, further to agenda item 7, I nominate myself and the Vice Chair as members of the committee to be consulted before officers take urgent action.
Is the proposal seconded? Members of Development Management Committee only, do you agree?
Agree.
The motion is carried. I will now deal with Licensing Committee. Would a member of that committee please nominate a chair?
I nominate Councillor Raja Ahmed.
Is the motion seconded?
Madam Mayor.
Are there any other nominations? Members of Licensing Committee only, do you agree?
Agree.
Councillor Ahmed, you are elected Chair of Licensing Committee. Please nominate a Vice Chair.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I nominate Councillor Taylor as my Vice Chair.
Is the proposal seconded?
Madam Mayor.
Are there any other nominations? Members of Licensing Committee only, do you agree?
Agree.
Councillor Taylor is elected Vice Chair. Would Councillor Ahmed please deal with the remaining items?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Further to agenda item 7, I nominate myself and the Vice Chair as the members of the committee to be consulted before officers take urgent action. And I further move that the membership of the licensing panel be as set out of the schedules circulated separately.
Is the proposal seconded? Members of Licensing Committee only, do you agree?
Agree, Madam.
The motion is carried. I will now deal with the Overview and Scrutiny Committee. Would a member of that committee please nominate a chair?
Madam Mayor, I nominate Councillor Peterson.
Is the motion seconded?
Seconded, Madam Mayor.
Are there any other nominations? Members of the Overview and Scrutiny Committee only, do you agree? Councillor Pedersen, you are elected Chair of the Overview and Scrutiny Committee. Please nominate a Vice Chair.
I nominate Councillor Tahir Malik as my Vice Chair.
Is the proposal seconded? Are there any other nominations? Members of Overview and Scrutiny Committee only, do you agree? Councillor Tahir Malik is elected Vice Chair. Would Councillor Pedersen please deal with the remaining items?
Further to agenda item 6, I nominate myself and the Vice Chair as the members of the committee to be consulted before officers take urgent action.
Is the proposal seconded?
Yes, seconded, Madam Mayor.
Members of Overview and Scrutiny Committee only, do you agree? The motion is carried. I will now deal with the Overview and Scrutiny Board. Would a member of the board please nominate a chair?
I nominate Councillor Pedersen.
Is the motion seconded?
Seconded, Madam Mayor.
Are there any other nominations? Members of Overview and Scrutiny Board only, do you agree? Councillor Pedersen, you are elected Chair of the Overview and Scrutiny Board. Please nominate your 2 Vice Chairs.
I nominate Councillor Tahir Malik as my Vice Chair. I am advised that the role of Vice Chair assigned to the Conservative group will remain vacant.
Is the proposal seconded?
Yes, Madam Mayor.
Are there any other nominations? Members of Overview and Scrutiny Board only, do you agree? Councillor T. Malik, you are elected Vice Chair of the Overview and Scrutiny Board. I will now deal with the Petitions and Representation Board. Will a member of that board please nominate a chair?
I nominate Councillor Haji Abid.
Is the motion seconded? Councillor Taylor?
Seconded, Madam Mayor.
It's you. Is the motion seconded?
I'll second the motion, Madam Mayor.
Is glad to have you back in the meeting. Are there any other nominations? Members of Petition and Representations Board only, do you agree? Councillor Haji Abed, you are elected Chair of the Petitions and Representations Board. Please nominate a Vice Chair.
Madam Mayor, I nominate Councillor Adris as my Vice Chair.
Is the proposal seconded? Are there any other nominations? Members of Petition and Representations Board only, do you agree? Councillor Hannah Adris is elected Vice Chair. Would Councillor Haji Abid please deal with the remaining item?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Further to agenda item 7, I nominate myself and the Vice Chair as the member of the committee to be consulted before officers take any urgent action. Thank you.
Is the proposal seconded? Members of Petition and Representations Board only, do you agree? Right, the motion is carried. I will now deal with the Scrutiny Children's Services Review Group. Would a member of that group please nominate a chair?
I nominate Councillor Bridgen.
Is the motion seconded? I second the motion. Are there any other nominations? Members of Scrutiny Children's Services Review Group only, do you agree? Councillor Bridgen, you are elected Chair of the Scrutiny Children's Services Review Group. I will now deal with the Scrutiny Finance Review Group. Would a member of that group please nominate a chair?
I nominate Councillor Young.
Is the motion seconded?
Yes, Madam Mayor.
Are there any other nominations? Members of Scrutiny Finance Review Group only, do you agree?
I agree.
Councillor Young is elected Chair of the Scrutiny Finance Review Group. I will now deal with the Scrutiny Health and Social Care Review Group. Would a member of that group please nominate a chair?
I nominate Councillor Underwood.
Is the motion seconded? Councillor Petts?
Yep.
Is that seconded?
It is.
Yeah, thank you. Are there any other nominations? Members of Scrutiny Health and Social Review Group only, do you agree? Councillor Underwood is elected Chair of the Scrutiny Health and Social Care Review Group. I will now deal with the Standards Committee. Would a member of that committee please nominate a chair?
I nominate Councillor Samira Salim.
Is the motion seconded?
Seconded, Madam Mayor.
Are there any other nominations? Members of Standards Committee only, do you agree? I have been elected Chair of Standards Committee and I nominate Councillor Nichols as my Vice Chair. Is the proposal seconded?
Seconded, Madam Mayor.
Are there any other nominations? Members of the Standards Committee only, do you agree? Councillor Nichols is elected Vice Chair. I will now deal with the remaining item. Further to Agenda Item 7, I nominate myself and the Vice Chair as members of the committee to be consulted before officers take urgent action. I further move that the membership of the local assessment and local adjudication panels are set out in Schedules 8A and B circulated around the Council chamber. Is the proposal seconded?
Seconded, Madam Mayor.
Members of the Standards Committee only, do you agree? I will now deal with the Taxi and Private Hire Licensing Committee. Would a member of that committee please nominate a chair?
Councillor Samira Bashir.
Is the motion seconded?
Seconded, Madam Mayor.
Are there any other nominations? Members of Taxi and Private Hire Licensing Committee only, do you agree? Yes. Councillor Kershid is elected Chair of Taxi and Private Hire Licensing Committee. Would a member please nominate a Vice Chair? Councillor Hussain?
Oh, I nominate Councillor Samira Salim as a Vice Chair. Sorry, have I nominated the wrong person?
No, you're nominating the right person. Is the proposal seconded?
Seconded,
Come on.
Madam Mayor.
Members of Taxi and Private Hire Licensing Committee only, do you agree? I have been... So I have been elected Vice Chair and I will deal with the remaining item. I move that the membership of the Taxi and Private Hire Licensing panels be as set out in the schedule separated separately. Is the proposal seconded? Members of Taxi and Private Hire Licensing Committee only, do you agree? The motion is
Madam
carried.
Mayor, I think the chair is here. Chair is present.
Yes.
But she doesn't have...
No, sorry, there's a little confusion. They thought that I'm still away.
Yeah.
So there's a little confusion. That's fine, no worries.
This was passed over to me because we weren't sure if she was going to be present at the meeting or not. So as Vice Chair, it was decided that I'd conduct the business.
Madam Mayor, I just pointed out that she's here, and that's my feeling. Yeah, that's it. Yeah.
Thank you. Right, the motion is carried. That concludes the meetings of the executive and all the committees. Thank you very much for your attendance, and that is the end of full council. Thank you.